My name is Corey Bennett, and I'm 35 years old. I overheard my wife whisper to her mother, "Do not worry. After the baby comes, I will divorce him, and we will live off the alimony and child support." I did not confront her. I just stood there in our hallway, feeling my whole life tilt sideways. Instead of walking in, I quietly slipped back out, got in my car, and later that day, I called a lawyer. What happened in court after I played those recordings is something I will never forget. That day started like any other. I was halfway to work, halfway to an important presentation I had been preparing for all week, when my stomach dropped. I had forgotten my laptop at home. I cursed under my breath, took the next exit, and turned the car around. The sky over Charlotte, North Carolina, was clear and bright, but suddenly the whole day felt off. When I pulled into our driveway, another car was already there. My mother-in-law's sedan. Patricia lived all the way on the other side of the state, near Raleigh. She usually only visited for holidays or special occasions. A random Tuesday afternoon visit made no sense. The front door was unlocked, which made sense if Patricia was inside, but I still paused as I stepped in. I heard voices coming from the kitchen. My wife Jasmine and her mother were talking in low tones. It was that particular whisper people use when they do not want anyone to overhear. Something in the way Jasmine's voice rose and fell made me freeze in the hallway. Maybe it was the tone. Maybe it was instinct. Whatever it was, I stopped walking. "Mom, I do not know. What if he fights me on it?" Jasmine's voice was tense, but there was something calculating underneath. Patricia sounded confident, almost amused. "Sweetheart, he will not. Trust me. Men never fight when there is a baby involved. And courts? They always side with mothers. Always." Jasmine hesitated. "But the house is in both our names now. What if?" Patricia cut her off. "Exactly. Both names. You get half automatically. Plus, with his salary, you are looking at serious child support and alimony." She actually sounded proud of herself. "Girl, you will be set for life." My heart stopped beating for a second. I stood there, pressed against the wall like a stranger in my own home. Jasmine laughed, a light, careless sound that broke something in me. I just feel bad sometimes. "You know, he has been so excited about the baby, reading all those parenting books, building the nursery." "Stop," Patricia said firmly. "Do not do that to yourself. You are doing what is smart, what is best for you and my grandchild. Besides, he is boring. You have said so yourself." Jasmine sighed, then laughed again. "He is kind of boring." "Exactly," Patricia said. I could almost see the dismissive wave of her hand. "So here's the plan. Baby comes. You take a few months to establish yourself as the primary caregiver. Then you file. You claim he was emotionally unavailable, worked too much, whatever sounds good. Any judge will side with you, and I can move back home with you. I already cleared out your old room. We will convert the garage into a nursery. It is perfect. You get his money. I get my daughter and grandchild nearby. Everybody wins except him." Patricia laughed at her own words. "He will be fine. Men always land on their feet. He will probably find some other woman desperate enough to marry him and start over. Meanwhile, you are living your best life on his dime." I stood there, staring at the wall, listening to my pregnant wife and her mother calmly plan how to destroy my life like they were discussing dinner plans. My chest felt tight, like someone was sitting on it. Some context about us flashed through my mind. Jasmine and I had been married for 3 years. She was 6 months pregnant. We had been trying for a baby for almost 2 years before she got pregnant. I had been at every doctor appointment, every ultrasound. I painted the nursery myself, stayed up late assembling cribs and changing tables, reading parenting books even though we had already picked names. This baby was my whole world, and what I was hearing made it sound like the entire thing had been a setup. I backed out of the house as quietly as I had entered. I did not grab my laptop. I did not grab anything. I got in my car and drove aimlessly until I ended up in some random parking lot. I sat there for who knows how long, staring at the steering wheel, trying to process what I had just heard. At first it was just shock. Then the shock burned off, and something else settled in. That cold, hard feeling when your emotions shut down and your brain switches to strategy. I took a deep breath and started the car again. I drove to an electronics store on the edge of town. The fluorescent lights made everything look even more unreal. I walked straight to the section with audio equipment and told the clerk I needed voice-activated recording devices, small, sensitive, able to pick up conversations across a room. He showed me a few models. I bought 3 of the best ones, spent about $400, and walked out with a bag that felt a lot heavier than plastic and metal. When I got home at my normal time that evening, I forced a smile onto my face. Jasmine met me at the door, bright and cheerful. Patricia was sitting on the couch. Jasmine held up a tiny baby onesie with little stars on it. "Look what Mom brought today," she said, eyes shining. "That is cute," I said, forcing warmth into my voice while my stomach churned. I made small talk, laughed in the right places, and acted like nothing was wrong. Inside, it felt like my ribs were made of glass. That night, after Jasmine went to bed, I waited until her breathing evened out. I moved quietly around the house, planting the recorders. One inside a decorative ceramic jar on the kitchen counter. One tucked behind some books on the living room shelf. One in our bedroom, inside my nightstand drawer, the drawer left just barely cracked. My hand shook, but my mind was clear. The next morning I called in sick to work, told my boss I had food poisoning. Then I told Jasmine I felt awful and needed to sleep. She kissed my forehead, told me to rest, and left me in the darkened bedroom. As soon as she thought I was asleep, I slipped out of bed, grabbed my keys and phone, and quietly left through the back door. I drove a few blocks away and parked where I could still connect to the recorders through the app on my phone. My heart pounded as I opened the first live feed. Within an hour, Patricia's voice floated through my speakers. "How are you feeling today, baby?" Jasmine sighed. "Tired. He thinks he has food poisoning. He is upstairs sleeping." Patricia chuckled. "Good. That gives us time to talk." They talked for hours. I listened in the car as the sun crawled across the sky. I heard everything. The whole plan laid out in excruciating detail. How Jasmine had stopped taking birth control over a year earlier without telling me. How Patricia had convinced her that a baby would be her golden ticket. How they had already consulted with a divorce attorney to map out the best strategy to get the maximum payout. They talked about me like I was an automated teller machine with legs. "He makes what, 130,000 a year?" Patricia asked at one point. "Around that," Jasmine answered casually. "With the child support calculator, you are looking at a minimum of 1,800 a month. Maybe 2,000 if you push," Patricia said. "Plus alimony. He's been the sole earner, so that is another 3, maybe 4,000 monthly. You are set." Jasmine actually giggled. "That is more than I ever made working." "Exactly," Patricia said. "Why work when you could just collect?" "What if he remarries?" Jasmine asked. "Does not matter," Patricia said. "Child support still comes out of his check. And you get alimony until you remarry. So just do not remarry. Live your life. Date whoever you want. Just do not make it official." I heard the sharp slap of their high five through my phone speaker. My stomach twisted. I felt sick, angry, and strangely calm all at once. Over the next few days, I kept the act going. I went to work. I came home. I cooked dinner. I rubbed Jasmine's feet when they swelled. I talked to the baby through her belly. And every chance I got, I checked the recordings. Patricia started coming over almost every day. They talked about everything they were going to do once they got free. Furniture they would buy for Patricia's house. Trips they would take. How they would spend his money. That phrase burned every time I heard it. While the recorders captured their conversations, I began documenting our finances. I pulled every bank statement from our entire marriage. I noted every deposit, every bill, every transfer. I had always known I was the sole earner, but seeing it all in print made it feel stark and cold. Jasmine had worked part-time at a boutique before she got pregnant, making maybe 20,000 a year, then quit as soon as we saw 2 lines on the test. As I went over our credit card statements, something strange jumped out at me. There were charges I did not recognize. At first I thought I had simply forgotten them, but the more I looked, the more obvious it became. These were not my purchases. I dug deeper and nearly dropped the papers. Jasmine had applied for credit cards in both our names without telling me and maxed them out. $15,000 in debt I did not even know existed. Baby furniture we supposedly saved up for. Maternity clothes from expensive boutiques. Spa days. All of it on secret credit cards. I took screenshots of everything, saved copies in cloud storage and on a flash drive. Then I called my friend from college, Rodney Lewis. He was a family law attorney now, working in office uptown. "Rodney, I need to meet with you today," I said when he picked up. My voice sounded flat even to me. "It has to stay between us." He heard something in my tone and did not argue. "Come by after hours," Rodney said. We will talk. His office smelled like coffee and old books. We closed the door, and I sat across from him, feeling like I had aged 10 years in a week. I pulled out my phone and played the first recording. Rodney listened, his eyes widening, his jaw slightly open. I watched his expression change from curiosity to disbelief to cold professional focus. When I stopped the recording, he exhaled slowly. "Corey," he said quietly, "this is a lot." "I know," I said. My voice broke on the second word. I did not even know where to start. Rodney rubbed his forehead. "All right. First question. I know this is going to sound harsh, but we have to go there. Is that baby yours?" Until that moment, that possibility had never really landed. I stared at him. "What?" "We have to know," Rodney said gently but firmly. "We get a non-invasive prenatal paternity test. They draw blood from her, collect a deoxyribonucleic acid sample from you. It can be done after 9 weeks. She's 6 months. Easy. She will never agree to that." I said automatically. "She will not have to," Rodney replied. "We will make it part of discovery once we file." He pulled out a legal pad and started writing. "But here's what we are doing first. You keep recording. You document everything. And you do not change your behavior at all. Act normal." "For how long?" I asked. "As long as it takes to build an airtight case," he said. "You will hate it, but it will save you." Keeping up the act was harder than I ever imagined. Every prenatal appointment, every little moment became a performance. Jasmine would smile and place my hand on her stomach when the baby kicked. I would smile back and say the right words, all while wondering whether the child inside her was even mine. The recorders kept capturing gold, as Rodney put it. One afternoon, Patricia said, "The attorney I talked to said the key is to establish yourself as the primary caregiver immediately. So when the baby comes, you do all the feedings, all the diaper changes. Make him feel useless. Then when you file, you can show you are the primary parent." "What if you want custody?" Jasmine asked. Patricia snorted. "Men never really want custody. They just say they do. Once he realizes how much work a baby is, he will give up. Then you get full custody and maximum child support." Jasmine laughed. "This is almost too easy." Meanwhile, the spending continued. More purchases. More debt. Jasmine started sending Patricia links to sport utility vehicles online. "I want something bigger," Jasmine said one night while they were in the living room. "Something safe for the baby. You should get him to buy it before you file," Patricia replied. "Tell him your car is not safe. Say you're scared to drive with the baby. A good father will feel guilty and take you to the dealership." That night at dinner, Jasmine cleared her throat. "Babe, I have been thinking," she said, pushing peas around her plate. "My car is getting old. What if something happens when I am driving with the baby? We should get something safer." I took a bite of my food and pretended to consider. "Let us wait until after the baby comes," I said mildly. "We will see how the finances look then. I just want to make sure we can afford it." She pouted, lips pushing forward slightly. "You always worry too much about money," she said. But she dropped it. The next day, the recorder in the kitchen caught her complaining to Patricia. "He is being cheap about the car," Jasmine said. "It does not matter," Patricia replied. "After you file, you can get whatever you want with the child support." While they were plotting, Rodney quietly filed for legal separation on my behalf. It established a date and protected my assets from anything she did going forward. "We are building toward the nuclear option," he explained during one of our late-night calls. "When we file for divorce, we are going for full protection of your assets, full exposure of her fraud, and 0 support payments." "Can we actually win that?" I asked. "With this evidence?" Rodney said, "Yes, we can." About a month before we were ready to file, Jasmine announced that Patricia was going to move in with us temporarily to help with the last trimester and after the baby comes. We were in the living room when she told me, her hand stroking her belly. I smiled through clenched teeth. "Sure, babe. Whatever you need," I said, keeping my tone light. Patricia moved into our guest room that weekend. I hid another recorder in the top of the closet behind a stack of extra blankets. It picked up her late-night phone calls to friends. "He is such a sucker," Patricia said one evening. "Has no idea what is coming. My daughter is going to be living off his paycheck for the next 18 years while I get to raise my grandchild. It is perfect." On another call, I heard her speaking to the divorce attorney she had already hired. "We are thinking emotional abuse," Patricia said crisply. "He works too much, does not pay attention to her needs. That kind of thing." Judges take that seriously. While they built their case, Rodney and I built ours. Finally, he said, "It is time." He arranged for the divorce papers to be served while I was at work, so that the recorders would capture Jasmine's and Patricia's honest reactions. The call came about 15 minutes after the process server left. Jasmine's number flashed on my phone. I answered. "Divorce papers?" she screamed. "Are you kidding me right now?" I took a breath, keeping my voice steady. "I think it is what is best," I said. "I am 7 months pregnant," she shouted. "You are abandoning me and your child." "The papers explain everything," I said. "We will work out custody arrangements." She hung up. A minute later, my phone rang again. Patricia's number. "What is wrong with you?" Patricia yelled the moment I answered. "You are divorcing a pregnant woman? You are a monster. You will pay for this." "Talk to my lawyer," I said, then ended the call. By the time I got home that evening, half of Jasmine's clothes were gone. So were some of her personal items. Patricia's suitcase was nowhere in sight. They had moved back to Patricia's house, just like they had planned from the beginning. Strangely enough, that was exactly what Rodney and I had hoped for. It simplified things. Jasmine texted me later. "We should probably talk about logistics," she wrote. I replied, "Talk to my lawyer." She sent back a message that felt rehearsed. "My lawyer will contact yours." She already had one on retainer, of course. They had been ready. Her attorney sent Rodney a demand letter asking for temporary support, exclusive use of the marital home, coverage of all medical bills, and spousal maintenance. Rodney sent back a calm counterproposal and a request for prenatal paternity testing. Almost immediately, her lawyer called him, furious. "A paternity test?" her attorney demanded. "That is insulting. We are not agreeing to that." "Then we will let the court decide," Rodney said. We filed a motion. The judge granted it, ordering Jasmine to comply. Her lawyer fought it with motion after motion, claiming it was invasive, stressful, unnecessary. The judge was unmoved. "If paternity is disputed, we establish it now," he said firmly from the bench. "The test is ordered." The wait for the results was brutal. I slept badly. I barely ate. My mother Angela called every evening, sensing something was wrong, even though I had not told her everything yet. I gave her vague answers. "Work is stressful. The pregnancy is a lot." I felt guilty lying to her, but I wanted hard facts before I opened that door. One morning, my phone rang as I was pouring coffee. I saw Rodney's name, and my hand tightened on the mug. I answered. "Just tell me," I said. He did not drag it out. "The baby is not yours," Rodney said quietly. "You are excluded as the biological father with 99.9% certainty." Everything went silent. The kitchen, the traffic outside, even the sound of my own breathing. "What?" I whispered. "The baby is not yours, Corey," Rodney repeated. "She was cheating on you." I leaned against the counter, the room tilting slightly. I had suspected it, but hearing it confirmed was like being hit by a truck. The grief came in a strange wave, not just for my marriage, but for the child I had already loved in my mind. Rodney kept talking, bringing me back. "This changes everything. She cannot claim child support for a baby that is not yours." The fraud case just got much stronger. As soon as I could think straight, Rodney filed amended papers, including the paternity results. My phone lit up like a Christmas tree. Calls from Jasmine. Calls from Patricia. Numbers I did not recognize, probably relatives. I blocked them all. Jasmine finally sent a text that I screenshotted and sent straight to Rodney. "That test is wrong. You are the father and my lawyer is going to prove it." Her attorney sent a furious letter claiming we had tampered with the test, that it was a legal trick, that they would be pursuing damages. Rodney sent back a simple response. "See you at the hearing." The preliminary hearing was scheduled in the Mecklenburg County Courthouse. The day we walked into that building, the halls buzzed with the low murmur of dozens of other people dealing with their own crises. I felt oddly detached, like I was watching my life from the outside. Jasmine arrived in a loose dress that showed her very pregnant belly. Patricia walked beside her, holding her arm like her support system. Her attorney looked polished and confident. They glanced at me with a mixture of anger and what looked like practiced sorrow. Rodney sat next to me at our table, his laptop open, a folder of printed transcripts neatly stacked beside him. He looked calm. "Remember," he murmured, "do not react to anything they say. Let the evidence talk." The judge walked in, robe heavy, expression neutral. After some formalities, Jasmine's attorney spoke first. Your Honor, my client was abandoned without warning while 7 months pregnant, he said. She has been living on her mother's charity. We are requesting immediate temporary support, exclusive use of the marital home, and coverage of all medical expenses related to the pregnancy and birth. The judge turned to Rodney. Response. Rodney rose smoothly. Your Honor, we have extensive evidence that this entire pregnancy was a premeditated fraud, he said. We would like to present recordings obtained legally from my client's own home. The judge's eyebrows rose. Recordings? Yes, Your Honor, Rodney said. Approximately 15 hours of the respondent and her mother discussing their plan to defraud my client through this pregnancy. Jasmine's lawyer shot to his feet. Objection, Your Honor, he said sharply. These alleged recordings were obtained without consent in a one-party consent state. Rodney did not flinch. My client recorded conversations in his own home. Your Honor, he said calmly. He is a party to the conversations because they involved discussions about his life, his finances, his marriage, and his child. That is completely legal. The judge considered this for a moment, then nodded. I will hear them, he said. Rodney connected his laptop to the court sound system. The speakers hummed. Then Jasmine's voice filled the courtroom. Mom, I do not know. What if he fights me on it? Then Patricia's voice followed, confident and smug. Sweetheart, he will not. Trust me. Men never fight when there is a baby involved. As the words echoed off the wood-paneled walls, I watched the color drain from Jasmine's face. Patricia's shoulders tensed. Their attorney stared straight ahead, his jaw clenched. Rodney let the first 5 minutes play. The part where they talked about the house being in both names, the half she would get, the child support, the alimony, how I would be fine while Jasmine lived her best life on his dime. Then he paused the recording. We have many more hours of similar conversations, Your Honor, Rodney said. They discussed stopping birth control without my client's knowledge, planning the pregnancy deliberately, consulting with divorce attorneys before ever filing, and calculating how to maximize their financial gain. The judge turned to Jasmine. Is that your voice? He asked. Jasmine opened her mouth. Her attorney leaned in and whispered something. She swallowed. Yes, she said finally. But I was just upset and venting. I did not actually mean. Play the rest, the judge said. Rodney did. He played the parts about the golden ticket, the child support calculator, how I was boring and easy to manipulate, how they would high-five over the idea of living off my salary for nearly 2 decades. When it ended, the courtroom fell silent. The judge's face was hard. Anything else? He asked. The paternity test results, Your Honor, Rodney said, handing over the documents. We have already submitted them to the court. The judge read in silence for a moment, then looked directly at Jasmine. Whose child is this, ma'am? He asked. Jasmine's eyes filled with tears. It was a mistake, she said, voice trembling. The marriage was difficult. I was confused. I will ask again, the judge said, voice firm. Who is the biological father? Jasmine stared down at her hands. I do not know, she whispered. The judge leaned back in his chair, his expression full of controlled anger. Here is what is happening, he said finally. No temporary support. The petitioner remains in the marital home, which was his property prior to marriage. All joint credit cards are frozen, pending investigation. We will reconvene for a final hearing to settle this matter properly. Jasmine's attorney jumped up. Your Honor, my client is about to give birth, he said. She can stay with her mother, the judge said, cutting him off. According to these recordings, that was the plan anyway. He turned his gaze back to Jasmine. Ma'am, you attempted to perpetrate fraud on this court and on your husband, he said. I suggest you think very carefully about your next moves. He brought the gavel down. Hearing over. In the hallway outside, Jasmine sat on a bench, crying quietly while her attorney spoke to her in low tones. Patricia broke away and marched toward me, eyes blazing. You destroyed her, Patricia said, jabbing a finger at my chest. She is pregnant and practically homeless because of you. She is in this position because she committed fraud, I said calmly. And that baby is not mine. You are disgusting, Patricia hissed. What kind of man? The kind of man who does not appreciate being lied to for money, I said. Have a good day. Her face turned a deep shade of red. She looked like she wanted to explode, but a security guard near the door was watching closely. So, she just glared and walked away. The aftermath was ugly. Phone calls from her relatives, from mutual friends, even for people I barely knew. Jasmine's side of the story hit social media first. Cruel husband abandons pregnant wife over faulty paternity test. Strangers called me a monster in comment sections. I did not respond publicly. Instead, I sent court documents and a few key transcripts to the people who actually mattered to me. Some apologized for doubting me. Some stayed silent. I learned quickly who was really in my corner. My mother was devastated. At first she thought I had abandoned my child. When I finally sat down with her in her small kitchen, hands wrapped around a mug of tea, and told her everything, she covered her mouth with her hand. "Corey," she said softly, "I am so sorry you have been going through this alone." I showed her the paternity results and played a short part of one recording. Angela's eyes filled with tears. She took a long breath, then nodded. "I am proud of you for protecting yourself," she said. "You did what you had to do." Later I heard she sent Jasmine a letter. I never saw it, but a mutual cousin said it was brutal and honest and left Jasmine speechless. Jasmine's text to me shifted like the weather. One day, "Baby, please. We can work through this. I made a mistake." The next, "My lawyer says those recordings are illegal. You're going to jail. Then, I will make sure everyone knows what a monster you are." I forwarded everything to Rodney and did not respond. Patricia sent me a handwritten letter, full of flowery language about family, forgiveness, and how I had twisted her daughter and corrupted what had once been a pure heart by being suspicious. Reading it, I almost laughed. Somehow, in her mind, I was the reason they had planned this fraud. I put the letter back in the envelope and dropped it into a drawer without answering. Before the final hearing, Jasmine's attorney tried to settle. He offered that Jasmine would walk away with nothing if I gave her a lump sum of $50,000. Rodney stared at the email and then looked at me. "Do you want to hear my honest opinion?" he asked. "Always," I said. "Absolutely not," he replied. Then he dictated our counteroffer. Jasmine could take her personal belongings, and we would not press fraud charges. That was it. Her attorney called the offer insulting. Rodney called it generous. They declined. The final hearing took place shortly after Jasmine gave birth. She arrived carrying a tiny baby in a car seat, dark curls peeking out from under a little hat. For a moment, my heart twisted. I had imagined being there for that birth, cutting the cord, holding my child. Instead, I was sitting across a courtroom, the baby a stranger to me in every legal and biological sense. The judge reviewed everything again, the recordings, the transcripts, the bank and credit card statements, the paternity test. Jasmine's attorney tried a new angle. He argued that Jasmine had been coerced by Patricia, that she had been emotionally vulnerable, overwhelmed by the pressure to have a child and maintain a certain lifestyle. He claimed she deserved compassion and consideration. The judge listened without much expression, then shook his head. "Here is the ruling," he said. "The marriage is dissolved. All premarital assets remain with the original owner. The home stays with the petitioner. Joint credit card debt will be divided based on who made the charges. The respondent is responsible for approximately $12,000 of the $15,000 in fraudulent charges." Jasmine gasped. "Your Honor, please. I have a newborn," she said, voice shaking. "No alimony," the judge continued. "No child support, as paternity is established with a third party. The respondent is responsible for her own legal fees, plus the petitioner's legal fees of $14,000. Jasmine's attorney objected repeatedly. The judge overruled each objection. Additionally, the judge said, "The respondent will be required to establish the paternity of the child for purposes of seeking support from the actual biological father. But that is not this court's concern today." He brought the gavel down. It was over. Jasmine broke down sobbing. Patricia glared at me like I had personally torn their lives apart with my bare hands. Rodney packed up our files. "That went as well as it possibly could have," he said quietly. Outside, Patricia stopped me one more time near the courthouse steps. She held the baby against her shoulder, patting its back. "I hope you are proud of yourself," she said. "You destroyed her." "She destroyed herself," I answered. "I just refused to go down with her." Patricia's eyes flashed. "That baby deserves a father," she said. "Then Jasmine should find the real one," I said. "How do you sleep at night?" Patricia demanded. I did not hesitate. In my own house, in my own bed, without a fraudster next to me, I said, "Pretty well, actually." Patricia's mouth opened, but before she could answer, Jasmine doubled over slightly, wincing, and Patricia had to turn and steady her. Hospital instructions echoed in my mind. Post-birth complications, healing times, the need for rest. They had more immediate problems to deal with than me. I walked away and left them to it. When I added everything up afterward, the final cost of my escape was clear. I kept my house, my retirement accounts, my savings, my car. I lost about $4,000 that the court ruled was my share of the joint credit card debt. I paid $14,000 in legal fees. $18,000 total to walk away from a fraudulent marriage and an 18-year financial prison sentence. It could have been much worse. Jasmine, from what I heard later, had to pay $12,000 in credit card debt and $14,000 in legal fees. She had a baby with no father on record and a reputation that followed her like a shadow. Patricia's perfect plan turned into a financial disaster. Word got around our small community. She tried to get her old job back at the boutique, but they did not rehire her. People whispered. The recordings leaked somehow. I still do not know who did it, though I have my suspicions. One day, they simply started circulating. Snippets of Jasmine and Patricia talking about their plan, the golden ticket, the calculations. People who had called me heartless started sending apologies. Some I accepted, some I ignored. I did not have the energy to fix everyone's understanding of the story. The people who mattered already knew the truth. According to mutual friends, Jasmine struggled. She filed for bankruptcy within a year. She and the baby moved back in with Patricia permanently. Patricia helped with the child but resented the shift from glorious retirement, raising a grandchild on someone else's money, to budget living with a crying baby and court letters. They fought constantly. At one point, Jasmine tried to sue me for emotional distress. She found another lawyer, told him her version of events. He requested the files from my attorney as part of discovery. After he read through everything, he dropped her as a client. Meanwhile, I started putting myself back together. I began seeing a therapist. Sitting in that office, staring at the soft gray carpet, I finally let myself feel everything. The betrayal, the humiliation, the grief over a baby I had loved in my mind but who had never been mine. You spent 3 years building a life that was not real. The therapist said, gently one afternoon, "You are mourning that life. That is not weakness. It is normal." Slowly, the raw edges softened. I repainted the nursery, covering the soft yellow with a calm blue-gray. I took apart the crib and donated it. I turned the room into a home office. I got a dog from a local rescue, a goofy, energetic mixed breed that followed me around the house like a shadow. I named him King, and he would curl up under my desk while I worked, occasionally resting his head on my knee like he could feel when my thoughts drifted somewhere dark. Work went well. With the stress of the hidden fraud gone and the case mostly handled, my focus sharpened. I got a promotion and a raise. My coworkers noticed I seemed lighter, even if they did not know why. Life moved forward. I ran into Patricia once in a grocery store parking lot. She was loading groceries in her trunk when she spotted me. Her mouth tightened, and she started to walk over. I just shook my head and kept walking. Behind me, I heard her raise her voice about karma and how God sees everything. I did not turn around. A few months later, the recordings surfaced more widely. Someone sent them to someone else, and soon they were all over group chats and private messages. I did not share them, but I did not lose sleep over whoever did. People who had quietly judged me began to see the full story. Some relatives called just to say, "I'm sorry I doubted you." I accepted some apologies. Others I met with polite distance. I did not need everyone back in my life. I just needed peace. On the baby's first birthday, I got a friend request from Jasmine on social media. Attached was a photo of a little girl in a pink dress, cake smeared on her cheeks, eyes bright and curious. The message underneath read, "Do you not wish she was yours?" I looked at the picture for a long moment. The child was innocent in all of this. None of it had been her fault, but she was not mine. Her life was not my responsibility. Without responding, I blocked Jasmine and closed the app. The thing about people like Jasmine and Patricia is that they never really see themselves as the problem. Even after losing everything they thought they would gain, they still told anyone who would listen that I was the villain. Patricia still tells people, "I am a deadbeat father who abandoned his child," or so I hear now and then. I no longer bother correcting anyone outside my circle. The people whose opinions matter already know what happened. The rest can believe whatever story makes them feel better. It has been a few years now since that morning I forgot my laptop and turned the car around. Sometimes it feels like another lifetime. The house is quiet, calm. Every room reflects my choices now, my taste, my life. Occasionally I will sit in my office, the room that used to be a nursery, and remember how it almost was. The crib against the far wall, the mobile with little stars, the name we had picked painted in my mind above the dresser. I think about how close I came to spending nearly 2 decades paying thousands of dollars every month for a child that was not mine, to a woman who had never loved me, only what I could provide. And then I think about the moment I stepped into that hallway and heard Jasmine's whisper. I am grateful I listened. Grateful I did not storm in and start a fight without proof. Grateful I bought those recorders. Grateful I called Rodney. Jasmine and Patricia tried to play a game they thought they had already won. A game where I would always be the fool who paid and apologized and begged. They misjudged me. I did not have to shout or threaten or throw things. I just had to be patient, collect the truth, and lay it out in front of Judge. In the end, I walked away with my house, my future, and my self-respect. No schemes, no lies, no pretending, just my life on my own terms. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.